Commander Elias Reese walked through the quiet corridors of Outpost 9, far beyond the edge of known space. It was late in the ship cycle, and most people were either sleeping or inside the trading halls. His boots made soft echoes on the metal floor as he carried his scanner, checking storage crates for misplaced cargo. Elias was a salvager. His job was to find broken things, fix them, and sell them. He had seen many strange things in deep space, but today felt different. Something pulled at his gut, like a whisper he couldn't hear. Bay 17, his scanner beeped. Unauthorized. Organic cargo detected. Elias frowned. Organic cargo was rare here, especially this far out in the fringe. He walked to Bay 17, where tall metal containers sat stacked in rows. The lights flickered slightly. This part of the outpost wasn't well maintained. He found the crate blinking red. It was marked in 3 alien languages. One of them was Varelian, a cold and secretive race known for trading rare minerals, and sometimes more disturbing things. He tapped on the screen. The crate was listed as nutrient-grade organic mass. He expected plants, maybe cloned meat. But when he scanned the interior, the image stopped him cold. There was a body inside, frozen, curled up, humanoid in shape, but clearly alien. Long, limbs, pale skin with a soft shimmer and delicate features. A breathing mask was sealed over the face. The body wasn't just frozen, it was cryopreserved, alive, or at least it had been. Elias stared at the screen. "This isn't meat," he whispered. "It's a person." He quickly checked the outpost logs. The crate had been misrouted from a Varelian merchant ship. It was meant for a buyer in another system. No one had reported it missing. No one had come looking. It was just sitting there, forgotten. His hand hovered over the control panel. Cryo units were dangerous to open without the right medical equipment. But the longer he waited, the higher the chance the person inside might not survive. He sent a message to the dockmaster, Elias Reese. Possible live being found in cargo, requesting help. Dockmaster, not our problem. If it was cargo, it's cargo. If it's alive, it's illegal freight. Report it to Central. Elias stared at the reply. Bureaucracy. Cold and slow. The Central office was weeks away. By the time they responded, it might be too late. He looked again at the screen. The figure in the cryo chamber twitched slightly, a sign of life, a weak signal, but still there. Forget the rules, Elias muttered. I'm not letting someone die in a box. He activated the manual override and carefully opened the crate. Cold vapor spilled out as the chamber unlocked with a hiss. The freezing air touched his skin like knives. Inside, the alien woman lay, still her chest rising and falling slowly. She was beautiful in a fragile, unearthly way. Thin silver patterns ran across her skin like soft light under glass. He gently lifted her out, surprised at how light she was. Her eyes were shut tight and her fingers curled like she was dreaming, or afraid. He carried her to the med bay on his ship, the Starlight, and placed her on the warming bed. The medical systems began to work, adjusting her body temperature, scanning her biology, monitoring her vitals. The ship's AI spoke softly. Unknown species, cryotrauma detected, recovery possible with care. Elias pulled a chair beside the bed and waited. He watched her chest rise, fall, rise again. She was alive. That much was clear. He looked at her face. She didn't look like a monster. She didn't look dangerous. She looked lost. Cold. Alone. Who are you? He whispered. And why did they treat you like food? Hours passed. Slowly, color returned to her cheeks. Her fingers twitched. Then, with a gasp, her eyes opened, wide and glowing like stars. She sat up suddenly, her breathing sharp, panicked. Elias raised his hands. Hey, easy. You're safe. You're on my ship. You're okay. She stared at him, confused. She didn't understand his words, but something in his voice made her pause. Her eyes were filled with fear, but also something else. Hope. Elias smiled gently, We'll figure this out, one step at a time. He didn't know her story yet. He didn't know what she had suffered. But he knew one thing. No one deserved to be treated like cargo. No one deserved to be forgotten. And if the galaxy didn't see her worth, he would. The alien woman lay still on the soft medical bed aboard the Starlight. Her breathing slowed, but her eyes stayed wide open, watching every movement Elias made. She had no name, no voice that Elias could understand. She only knew she was no longer frozen, but she was still very afraid. Elias worked carefully, scanning her body with his medkit. The ship's AI ran constant tests. Her biology is complex, the AI said. Unknown species, rapid healing capabilities detected. Elias nodded, amazed. She's tough, stronger than she looks. The woman's skin, still cool to the touch, shimmered faintly under the lights. Her delicate fingers flexed slowly, and after a few hours she began to move more confidently. But she remained silent, her eyes darting around the room, watching Elias as if trying to understand who he was, and if he meant harm. Elias tried simple words and gestures, but they did not connect. She did not speak Galactic Standard, the language of most space travelers and traders. He thought about how lonely she must feel, trapped not only by her frozen state, but also by the silence between them. "Can you understand me?" he asked, softly. She did not answer. Instead, she reached out her hand, trembling, and touched his wrist lightly. The touch was gentle, but full of meaning, an unspoken plea for help. Elias's heart tightened. "I'll help you," he promised. "I don't know your name, but you're safe now." That night, Elias stayed in the medbay watching over her. He thought about the crate's label, nutrient-grade organic mass. How cruel it was to call a living being like that. His mind wandered to what she had gone through before ending up frozen and sold like meat. The next day, Sira, Elias had chosen this name because it sounded soft and kind, began to respond more. She learned how to use a simple translator device Elias found in the medbay. At first, the device only made strange noises, but over hours she managed to make a few sounds that the device converted into words. "Who?" "I?" she said weakly. Elias smiled. "You are Sira. You're alive. You are not alone." Her eyes filled with tears. She didn't understand everything, but she understood kindness. Elias sat beside her, asking questions and listening to what she could say. Slowly, fragments of her story came out, broken words and pictures shared through the translator. She came from a planet called Virelia. Her people were proud and harsh. They believed in strength above all else. But she was different. She had feelings. Too many feelings, they said. She showed empathy, kindness, and sorrow. In her world, these were weaknesses. Because of this, her own people called her defective. They sold her as frozen food. Elias's fists clenched. "That's wrong," he said quietly. "No one should be treated like that." Sira nodded, her gaze distant. She remembered the cold shipping container, the fear, the loneliness, the darkness before Elias found her. Elias decided to teach her about humans. "We believe everyone has value," he said. "We care about feelings. We fight for freedom." Sira listened, amazed by these ideas. "Freedom," she whispered. "Not sold." "No," Elias said. "Never sold." Over the next days, Sira's body grew stronger. She learned to move again, to walk without help. She was curious about everything: how the ship worked, the stars outside, the colors of the sky. Elias showed her pictures of Earth, telling stories of people who fought for what was right. But not everyone shared Elias's kindness. News of Sira's existence spread through the outpost. Some traders whispered. Some looked at her with disgust or fear. "Alien defect?" one merchant said. "Why keep her alive?" Elias heard the words, but he stood firm. "She's not a defect. She's a person." One evening, a message arrived on the Starlight's comm system. The voice was cold and formal. "This is Virelian. Trade Authority. We have a claim on the alien female in your custody. Return her immediately. Failure to comply will be considered theft. Elias felt a cold weight in his chest. The Varelians wanted her back to the fate she had escaped. He looked at Sira. She was quiet, but her eyes held a fierce light. "We're not sending you back," Elias said softly. "Not ever." But the threat was real. The Varelians were powerful and known to enforce their rules without mercy. Elias knew this fight was only beginning. Sira reached out and touched his hand, steady and strong. "Fight," she said simply. He smiled, a new strength rising inside him. Together, they would face the galaxy's cold rules. Together, they would show the worth of one life. Sira sat by the viewport of the Starlight, watching distant stars drift slowly by. She no longer felt the chill of the cryochamber, but her heart still carried the weight of her past. Elias stood nearby, quietly repairing a broken control panel. The ship was old but steady, much like their growing friendship. Every day was a lesson. Elias patiently taught her galactic standard, the common language used by many species across the galaxy. Sira's accent was soft and strange, but she learned quickly. More importantly, she learned to trust. At first, Sira spoke only in simple words. Ship, star, help. But soon, sentences formed. Her voice was clear and hopeful. "I want live free," she said one afternoon. Elias smiled. "Yes, you will. You're free now." The idea of freedom was new to Sira. In Varelia, freedom was a word that belonged to the strong. The weak belonged. To the strong, they were property, tools, or worse. But Elias showed her a different way, a way where kindness mattered. Sira asked many questions. "Why humans care?" she asked one evening as they watched a sunset on a nearby planet. "Your people, not sell others?" Elias shook his head. "We make mistakes, but we believe every life has value. We fight to protect it." She looked at him with wonder. "You fight for feelings?" "Yes," Elias said. "For hope, for love, for the right to be who you are." Sira's eyes shone. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to be more than what her people said she was. But learning wasn't only about language or feelings. Sira had to learn how to live in a new world, a world full of machines, stars, and dangers she had never known. Elias taught her to operate the ship's systems. She quickly understood navigation, communications, and basic repairs. Her sharp mind and quick reflexes made her a natural. One day, while repairing a damaged antenna, Sira paused. "Why you saved me?" she asked softly. Elias didn't answer right away. He looked out the window at the endless blackness dotted with shining lights. "Because I saw you," he finally said. "Not as cargo, not as food, but as someone with a soul." Sira smiled faintly, a small warmth blooming inside her. She was no longer just a defective Varelian. She was someone. Their bond grew stronger with every passing day. But the galaxy around them was not kind. The Varelian Trade Authority sent more messages demanding Sira's return. Elias ignored the warnings, refusing to let fear control his actions. Sira learned about those warnings too. The harshness of her people was real and dangerous. If captured, she would face punishment worse than freezing. One evening, while Elias was at the controls, Sira studied the star charts. Her finger traced the lines toward human-controlled space. "Is safe there?" she asked. "For now," Elias replied. "But we need to move fast." Suddenly the ship's sensors beeped sharply. Elias looked up. "Incoming ship," he said, voice tense. "Varelian patrol." Sira stood quickly, fear and determination mixing in her eyes. "Hide," Elias ordered, guiding her to a secret cargo bay. The patrol ship docked with a loud clang. Elias powered down non-essential systems, making the Starlight appear empty. Minutes felt like hours. The Varelian officers moved through the corridors, their voices cold and demanding. Search the ship, one said. We have a claim. Elias stayed calm, pretending to be a simple salvager doing his job. Finally, the officers left. Frustrated, they had found no trace of Sira. Elias breathed deeply. That was close. Sira stepped out of hiding, her hands trembling. Why they want me back? They see you as property, Elias said. But to me, you're family. Her eyes filled with tears. Family, new life. Elias nodded. Exactly. As days passed, Sira's confidence grew. She worked beside Elias, helped with repairs, and even learned to pilot the Starlight through asteroid fields. She felt alive, free. But the shadow of the Varelians loomed ever closer. One night, Elias and Sira sat together looking at the stars. She reached for his hand. Thank you, she said softly. For save me. For teach me. Elias smiled, squeezing her hand gently. You saved me too. They shared a quiet moment, two souls from different worlds bound by hope. The journey ahead was uncertain. The galaxy was big, and danger waited in every dark corner. But together, they would face it. Because sometimes the greatest strength comes not from power or weapons, but from trust and understanding. Days turned into weeks as the Starlight traveled further into space, leaving behind the cold outpost and the Varelian patrols. Sira had grown stronger and more confident. She learned the language better, and even laughed softly at some of Elias's jokes, though she still struggled with the idea of humor. But no matter how far they went, the past was never far behind. One afternoon, as Elias adjusted the ship's navigation system, a sharp alarm rang out. The ship's communication console blinked with an incoming message. Elias's face darkened when he saw the sender, the Varelian Trade Authority. Sira, Elias said quietly. They found us again. The message was formal but firm. Return the alien female immediately, or face legal and military consequences. Sira looked at Elias, her eyes wide but steady. She understood the threat now. We must respond, Elias said. But not with fear. He opened the channel and spoke clearly. This is Commander Elias Reese of the Starlight. Sira is under my protection. She is no property. She is a living being with rights. We will not return her. The silence that followed was heavy. Then the message came back. You have 1 week to comply. After that, we will take action. Elias turned to Sira. They want to force us. They want to take you back. Sira's hands clenched. I will not go. Good, Elias said, because I will fight to keep you free. The days that followed were tense. Elias contacted old friends in the Human Expansion Alliance, a group that defended human and alien rights across many systems. They agreed to help, but warned that the Varelians were powerful and had many allies. Sira learned about these alliances. She saw that the galaxy was a place of many laws, many powers, and many battles, not always fought with guns, but Sira was ready to fight in her own way. One evening, while Elias worked on the ship's engines, Sira accessed the ship's communication system and sent a message of her own. Using the few words she knew, she reached out to other Varelian defectors, those who had escaped the cruel caste system and slavery. Help me, she wrote. Not alone. Within hours, she received replies. Small groups of aliens like her, scattered across human-controlled space. They were afraid but hopeful. Elias watched Sira with pride. You're becoming a leader. Sira smiled shyly. I want to help others like me, not be lost. The bond between them deepened. Elias taught Sira how to prepare for what might come. They practiced emergency drills, sharpened their skills, and made plans for escape routes. But the Varelians were clever. One night, the Starlight received an unmarked message, a warning in a strange code. Leave the sector. Or else. Elias frowned. They're closing in. He activated the ship's stealth systems and plotted a course through a dangerous asteroid belt. Hold on, he said. This won't be easy. The ship shook as it dodged giant rocks and debris. Sira gripped the console, her heart pounding. Elias's hands moved quickly, steadying the ship with skill and calm. After a tense hour, they broke free. The danger passed for now. Sira looked at Elias. "Why you help me so much?" Elias smiled softly. "Because you're worth it. Because no one should be alone and scared." Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." But the fight was not over. News of Sira's escape spread through the galaxy. Some admired her courage. Others whispered warnings. The Varelians had powerful friends, and they would not give up easily. Elias and Sira prepared for what might come next. They were no longer just a salvager and a lost alien woman. They were a team, a family, and together, they would change the story of what it meant to be free. The news of Sira's escape spread quickly across the Galactic Alliance networks. Many were shocked to learn about the Varelian practice of selling living beings as frozen cargo. Humans, known for their loud voices and strong beliefs, soon took up Sira's cause. Elias and Sira found themselves at the center of a growing movement. Messages of support poured in from every corner of human space. People sent offers of help, protection, and even invitations to speak at councils and forums. Elias felt a surge of hope. "This is bigger than us," he said. "People want change." Sira, though still learning the ways of humans, understood this new power, the power of many voices joining together. She felt it in her bones, a fire that she had never known before. One day they were invited to a meeting of the Human Expansion Alliance on the planet Novara, a shining beacon of justice and progress. The council chamber was vast, filled with delegates from many species. Elias and Sira entered quietly, hand in hand. Sira's pale skin and glowing eyes drew attention, but the room quickly fell silent as Elias spoke. "We stand here not just to protect one life, but to defend the rights of many," Elias said firmly. "Sira's story is proof that even in the darkest places hope can survive." Sira stepped forward, her voice shaky but strong. "My people called me defect. They sold me like food. But I am not defect. I am alive. I want to live free." Her words echoed through the chamber, touching hearts. After the speech, representatives promised to investigate the Varelian trade and to push for new laws against slavery and trafficking. The council voted to recognize Sira as a citizen with full rights, no longer property, but a person. Back on the Starlight, Sira felt a new sense of belonging. She was no longer just a survivor, she was a symbol, but with visibility came danger. The Varelians were furious. They sent private enforcers to track the Starlight through the outer systems. One night, as Elias and Sira prepared for rest, the ship's alarms blared. "Incoming attack," Elias shouted, rushing to the controls. Small fighter ships appeared, closing fast. Elias took the helm, his hand steady. "Ready yourself, Sira," he said. "We can't run forever." Sira nodded, her heart pounding, but instead of fear, she felt a calm determination. The fighters fired lasers, and the Starlight rocked under the blasts. Elias maneuvered through asteroid fields, weaving and dodging with skill. Sira used the ship's defense systems, activating energy shields and countermeasures. Together, they fought back. The battle was fierce, but the attackers soon realized they were outmatched. They retreated, leaving the Starlight bruised but intact. Breathing heavily, Elias looked at Sira. "You were amazing." She smiled, feeling stronger than ever. "We fight for more than ourselves." The next day, they received messages of support from human ships nearby, ready to escort the Starlight to safety. The galaxy was beginning to listen. Elias and Sira decided to use this momentum. They traveled to planets and space stations, sharing their story, inspiring others to stand against injustice. Sira became a spokesperson, her voice carrying hope to those who suffered in silence. She met others like her, aliens who escaped slavery, who fought to reclaim their lives. One evening, as they looked out at a purple sunset on a peaceful world, Elias said softly, "You've changed everything." Sira took his hand. "Because You saw me, not as frozen meat but as worth. Elias smiled. That's what humans do. Together, they looked toward the stars, ready for whatever challenges awaited. Because when humanity stands for justice, no darkness can hold back the light. The Galactic Council's chambers were filled with tension. Representatives from dozens of star systems gathered to discuss the future of Sira and the Varelian people. Elias sat beside her, feeling the weight of the moment. For Sira, this was more than a legal matter. It was a chance to prove her own worth beyond the labels her people had given her. The Council's question was clear. Was Sira a sentient being with rights, or just property as the Varelians claimed? Sira listened carefully as voices debated. Some argued for her freedom, inspired by the stories she and Elias had shared. Others hesitated, bound by tradition and fear of upsetting old customs. Elias whispered, "You're stronger than they know. Speak your truth." When it was her turn, Sira stood tall, her voice clear and steady despite the unfamiliar setting. "I am not what they say. I have feelings. I make choices. I want to live free," she said simply. Her words moved many, breaking the cold walls of prejudice. After long hours, the council decided to give Sira a chance. If she could show her independence and willingness to integrate with new societies, they would grant her full citizenship. This was a victory, but only the first step. Elias turned to Sira. "This is your life now. What will you choose?" Sira looked at him, gratitude shining in her eyes. But she was also afraid. The galaxy was vast, and the road ahead was uncertain. Elias took a deep breath. "I want to help you, not just as a protector, but as something more." He paused, then said quietly, "Will you marry me?" Sira blinked, surprised. Marriage was a legal bond in many cultures. For her it was unfamiliar, but she understood the meaning. Safety, partnership, trust. "I choose," she said after a moment. Their wedding was simple but meaningful. Friends from many worlds joined in celebration. Sira wore a bright blue dress that matched the stars outside. Elias wore his usual uniform, proud and steady. Together they promised to stand by each other, through danger, hope, and all the unknowns. The marriage gave Sira legal protection. It was a shield against those who wanted to take her back to a life of chains. But more than that, it was a symbol of trust between two very different beings who had found strength in each other. After the ceremony, Sira and Elias returned to the Starlight. The ship felt more like home than ever before. Sira smiled as Elias helped her into the pilot's seat. "We are partners," she said. "Yes," Elias agreed. "In every way." Together they set course for human space, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. Their story was no longer just about escape or survival. It was about new beginnings, chosen family, and the power of seeing worth where others saw none. Because sometimes the greatest freedom comes not just from laws or battles, but from the choices we make with those we trust. Years had passed since Elias and Sira had first met on that cold outpost, and much had changed, not only for them but for the galaxy itself. The Starlight had become more than a ship. It was a symbol of hope, freedom, and the power of compassion. Sira stood on the bridge looking out at the stars she once thought were unreachable. Her skin still shimmered softly under the lights, and her eyes held the quiet strength of someone who had faced darkness and won. Beside her, Elias prepared the ship for their next mission. Their partnership was more than legal, it was true. Together they had built a life based on respect, trust, and love. But their work was far from over. Sira had become a diplomat for the newly formed alliance of freed Varelians. Her mission was clear: to help others escape the cruel caste system that once branded her as defective. She traveled to distant planets and space stations, speaking for those who had no voice. Her speeches were simple but powerful. "No one is property. No life is worthless," she told crowds of mixed species. "We all deserve to be free." The galaxy listened. At times, danger still followed them. Some Varelian factions refused to accept the changes and sought to silence Sira's message. But with Elias by her side, and the support of many allies, she faced every threat with courage. One day, on the planet Kalis, a large gathering awaited her. Hundreds of former slaves and defectors had come to hear her speak. Among them were children, parents, warriors, and scholars, all united by hope. Sira looked out at the crowd and saw reflections of her own past, fear, pain, but also determination. She raised her voice. "We are more than what others say. We are not frozen meat, not broken tools. We are alive. We are strong. And together, we will change our fate." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices rising like a wave of light against the darkness of old ways. Elias stood quietly beside her, pride shining in his eyes. He knew how far she had come, from a frozen crate to a beacon of freedom. Later, as they walked through the bustling city streets, Sira paused. "Do you remember when you first found me?" she asked softly. Elias smiled. "How could I forget? I saw you in that cold box and knew you were worth more than anyone could see." Sira nodded. "You saved me, not just from cold or chains, but from being invisible." "And you saved me too," Elias said. "You showed me what it means to fight for someone else, to believe in hope." Their journey was proof that even in a vast, sometimes cruel galaxy, one human and one alien could make a difference. Because worth is not measured by strength or status, but by the courage to stand for what is right. As the twin suns of Kalis set, casting warm light over the horizon, Sira and Elias held hands. They looked to the future, not just for themselves, but for all those who dreamed of freedom. The galaxy was changing, and it had humanity's fierce heart to thank.